the choice between mutually exclusive possibilities, and so on. We don't really feel that alternative is the right term these days. Data that we're utilizing is more non-traditional. There's a lot to be had, and I'll go through the different topics, but definitely not alternative. So definitions, people that we talk about: unbanked, they have no demand deposit checking account; underbanked, having a deposit checking account but not much usage. We have thin files, where not enough trade lines to generate a credit score. In the U.S., and I'll kind of refer to the U.S. Just because I'm most familiar, but we had a lot of thin files, in particular from 2008 with the financial collapse. People went underground. They essentially stopped using their credit cards, and they're just living mostly in a cash lifestyle. Perfectly good credit opportunities. They're just not on the credit or the traditional credit radar. No hit, no file. No hit at a credit bureau. Stale file, where it gets information gets old. And then a lot of young, new people coming into the credit market. Before they were grabbing credit cards while they were in school, not something they're doing anymore, so they're really not getting a traditional credit profile till well out of university. With traditional data, or non-traditional data rather, you can start to build up a little bit of information on these individuals. Again, maybe they're paying meal plans, rent plans, things like that while they're in university. So really, everybody talks about unbanked, underbanked. They're really not on anything. A lot of these people choose to be there. So they're not they just don't want to deal in the current banking system or the traditional credit system. So utilizing non-traditional data, definitely a way to get them onto that credit radar. And I understand some of the things I'm going to talk about in here are different countries vary. In the States, we don't have any utilities report to the credit bureaus. I do realize that's different in some different countries. So credit then, historically, credit was granted on the basis of a credit officer's personal knowledge of the borrower, centered around mortgage, auto, revolving credit, and secure loans. And any additional information on top of that was based on negative reporting. Back then it was great. You knew your credit officer in your neighborhood, they knew you, and they granted you on that personal knowledge. As time went on, moved away from that and moved more into what was on that person's card at the credit bureau or what's in that file. When people moved away from that model, you get perfectly good people or consumers that are being left out for being considered what's in. So if you're only considering auto, mortgage, traditional credit lines, you're missing out on a lot of information that could be utilized. So in economic policy, non-traditional data refers to the inclusion of non-financial payment reporting data in credit files, such as telecom, energy, utility payments. And again, I'll go over a more intensive list in a little bit, but there's a lot of information out there that can be utilized, if not to base a credit decision off of, to at least enhance a traditional credit report itself. One I always use quite a bit in conversation is, if I handed you a business card, it's got some key points on it, my name, my title, some phone numbers, an address, but there's a lot of information that's not displayed on that card. That's kind of where, you look at a traditional report and assume my card is a traditional port. There's a lot of information to Sean Albert that's not being displayed that you could utilize. Based on those phone numbers, based on my mobile information, based on those email addresses, things that we can pull into this information or pull onto that card. So non-traditional sources, what's included? Cash flow, employment, criminal, non-traditional borrowing, short-term loans, utility, mobile phones, electric, water, sewer, natural gas, pretty much any utility, rent, mobile home, furniture leasing, appliances, self-storage, other categories, insurance, daycare, publications, magazine subscriptions, memberships, clubs, including gym memberships, student loans, public utility or record, property, bankruptcy, suits, debit prepaid cards, fraud verifications, social, we'll talk about a little bit more. Social is becoming more popular. Not quite able to decision off of it yet or really get a good picture of how to utilize it, but definitely information to pull in. Bank accounts, bank verifications, we'll go into that in detail. Check cashing, and there's always new sources of data available, and not just the payment of those sources, but the details within, in particular mobile phones, and I'll kind of go into a case study here in a moment. But pretty much anything that a consumer is paying on a continual basis can be tracked or can be considered a trade line. Not just a home mortgage payment, not just an auto payment or a credit card payment. Pretty much anything they're paying on time currently can be tracked and can be given a trade line and can go toward their credit profile. So let's consider mobile phones for a minute. So on a mobile phone, every single detail about each call, text, and request for information a customer makes is captured and stored by the mobile operators. That's a lot of data. Data about payments received and sent via mobile phone are excellent proxies for income, as well as ability to pay. Some people even receive their wages or social payments from the government in saving account via access to their mobile phones. Customers even pay their bills, make purchases, and receive remittances on their mobile phones. So, we're moving into, or we're at, a mobile culture. So there's a lot of information to be utilized. Again, not just the ability to pay your mobile phone bill every 30 days, but the details within can be utilized in creating accentuating a credit profile. So just some mobile stats. There are over 6.8 billion mobile phone subscribers in the world. The world's population currently is 7.1 billion people. We almost have as many mobile phones as we do people on the planet. Pretty amazing. Just some other quick ones. Mexico has 120 million population, 70 million have mobile phones, only 25 million have bank accounts. 1 billion mobile subscribers in China. Africa has the least, 63 subscriptions per 100 people. There's 2.8 billion people, almost 40% of the world's population are online. That's computers. So there's actually more smartphone users and phone users than there are people using online. Just a little stat, far fewer, only 4.5 billion people actually have access to working toilets. So pretty amazing. Social, another one that's become kind of very popular lately. Still not, something that we're looking at here at Microbilt, but not something we're quite utilizing, that we feel that we understand fully quite yet. So the underlying logic is that a person with more social network, more connections via, let's say, LinkedIn or Facebook, has a better recourse to funds in the event of a cash flow disruption. So they're a lower credit risk. You could look at, on Facebook side, how many friends do they have, where do they live, things like that. On LinkedIn, if they say they work at a certain company, how many friends or how many connections do they have at that company in their LinkedIn profile. So it's not predictive quite yet, we feel, but it adds strength to that report. The key that we'll talk about here is direct access. So identity and credit data are directly from the consumer. So you're thinking this is absolutely crazy, and I get called crazy quite a bit. And it's fine, because what it is we're moving towards a culture, instead of collecting credit and credit data on an individual, let's say in the backgrounds or behind the curtain, on their transactions, to actually have touch points with the consumer. Collect data with them, for them, kind of partner up with them to build up their credit profile. So, to do this, a lot of places are waiting around for utility companies to join or to report to them, or anybody to report, or let's say you need a bank data from an individual. Before they do a third-party call, again, going around the consumer essentially to get the information. With bank verification tools and utility verification tools, You can have the user as a participant in the conversation, pull down that transactional data all live in real time, and plug it in and utilize it in a decisioning process and into their credit profile. So they're giving you access to the account. People we found in our case studies, in our focus groups, they want to be part of it. They consider in the U.S. the big three, the TransUnions, the Equifax, and the Experians, kind of to be the Darth Vaders, sitting there in their black outfits collecting information that's going to be used on them. They perceive that as more negative. When you tell them that they can be a part of it, and the data is theirs, and they're part of the process, and they're helping their credit profile, they're more than willing to give you that information, provide that information, especially since it's self-help. So we call it around here gray data. Gray data is accumulated data from multiple sources, kind of built up over time. We're really moving towards a real-time data situation in this world. Data at this point in time exactly. Not a bank statement from yesterday that was faxed overnight and then sat on somebody's desk for a little bit. Literally transactional information from this very second pulled in and utilized. So you can really tell what that consumer or end user has been up to that point. Another great key is that the information is cross-boundary and cultural. So you've got a lot of people moving from country to country. You can utilize these databases for that information. So let's say you're in the UK, you've got a fantastic credit profile, move to the US, all of a sudden you're not existent on the US credit radar. With some of these databases you can, because they transcend borders. So gaining access can be very difficult. As I mentioned, the telecoms, they don't really want to let it out. The utilities, some places they share, some places it's mandatory. And the governments really don't want to get involved in particular, especially when they think that you're data mining or trying to collect the information illegally. So what we do here at Microbuild is we're looking for touch points for individuals at current, bring them into the credit situation. So move into a credit industry where the consumer can participate in their credit profile, be interactive in that. Self-reporting is automated. Before, let's say you'd ask for a consumer to print out, fax in your bank statement or utility bill or a paycheck to verify that information. You can actually pull that information in directly from the source with the user's participation. Also, what that does is it eliminates fraud. A little whiteout or a little Photoshop, somebody could adjust their paperwork. The data now comes directly from that source, the utility or the financial institution. So in the end, it helps the consumer, the credit bureaus, the lender, the economy, but definitely things to look at to bring in. So I'll go into depth a little bit about IBV right now, our instant bank verification product. This is the piece I always get the wow on. We launched this in the States about 2 years ago. It is our own technology. We are currently in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. We've got Australia slated for first quarter of 2014, and we've got a waiting list of other countries that we're considering and adding, pretty much based on who raises their hand and has a need immediately. So we do plan on launching this. Not a big thing to change depending on country. The biggest thing we do is we do send on our legal counsel to make sure that everything we are doing or about to do with the product adheres to all the country and local laws and regulations. I mentioned at the conference, we're not cowboys. We're not showing up with a product saying here it is and we're just going to start using it. We go in, make sure we talk to the right regulators, say this is what the product does. We just want to make sure everything's okay. What we found that IBV does is it automates a current process. A lot of the rules and regulations that sit on government paperwork are old. So they just need to be adjusted and just understand that, okay, this isn't something new, this isn't something different. It's automating a process that's currently in place. and making it safer for the consumer. There's added benefits to the consumer side, to the lender side, and to the credit bureau side. So it really helps everybody out. It's just a matter of explaining it properly and just making sure that we've got everybody on the same page. So big topics around the world right now in lending: know your customer, assess affordability, increase speed, reduce fraud, reduce paper statements, and anti-rollover support. Anti-rollover support is multiple loans on the back end, making sure they don't have too many, and how many times they've actually rolled it over. So, I was just at a conference in the UK 2 weeks ago, or actually last week. I think I heard the word affordability mentioned over 1,000 times. So the best way to do it is a bank verification tool. Gives you that exact information up to that point. Depending on the markets, averages up to 90 days worth of transactional information, so essentially 3 months of somebody's bank statement. We do, in some markets, have the ability to pull 12 months of information. That's really just based on financial institutions when we get in there and find what we can actually, what they're displaying and what they're to their users. We can do income verifications, identity, and other verifications. We aggregate all these transactions into different data points depending on the market, be it a lender, an auto industry, mortgage, you name it. We can just take that information and provide it in a report and different calculations. It's read-only, extremely important. We do not have the ability to transfer any funds or do anything once we're in there. We are the only ones that hold the credentials, and we do hold the credentials, and those are for back-end products that we offer, in particular that help the consumer again and the lenders. But on the front side, our goal is to just log into the account, make it as seamless as possible, pull down that information, and provide it to a lender and utilize it in a credit decision. We tack on some other tools, some ID verifications, also can be scored and decisioned off of. Questions I get all the time are the safety of it. Again, we're PCI compliant, Experian, Safe Harbor compliant. If there's a group that to belong to, we belong to it, and we adhere to all the rules that we possibly can. So, have different versions available. We have a couple API solutions and .com solutions. The API solutions are mainly based on two factors. Security. Security is the main factor, so we'll just stay there. We don't offer a true API, which means you can fully embed the application into your system unless you can adhere to our security protocol. Again, we can verify that our systems are secure. We can't verify everybody else's are. So we do have a security protocol before we even release the specs or enter into a conversation on a raw API. The other version we have, the other API, is more of a redirect or a widget. We are not present in anything that we do. So it doesn't say microbuilt or IBV anywhere. We give our customers the opportunity to say it's theirs. But we also found that customers like to say, hey, we're sending you through a third-party source to verify this information, and we don't keep it in our system whatsoever. So just different ways to play it out, for your customer base. We currently have access to over 20,000 financial institutions worldwide. We will not enter a country unless we have at least 90% or better coverage. It doesn't do anybody any good if we say we've got a country, but we've only got 10% coverage there. So we made that conscious decision that 90% is going to be our goal before we launch. It doesn't take long to get to there in certain markets. For instance, in the U.S., we've got over 14,000 financial institutions, prepaid cards, small credit unions, you name it in the U.S. Canada, I believe, to get to 90% only took us about 25. So depending on the country, it doesn't take us quite as many to get to that 90%. What we do is we can add financial institutions on the fly. It takes about a week or two to do so. So usually people send us a list, say, hey, these are the financial institutions that I deal with or that our customers deal with. We match it up against, and if we don't have them, we just need to add them. A little bit on the report, which is also representational of the data that you get back. We provide two forms. As soon as IBV is completed, there's a report that's available. It's done in the Get HTML. That way, if we add any calculations or features, nobody has to recode to it. It's just automatically there. But we also provide all the raw data at the same exact time. Again, IBV is real time. As fast as the person can click through is as fast as the data is going to be returned to them as well. So you can build it right into that raw data, right into a decision engine if you're looking to do so. It can be completely white labeled. Again, this is just our IBV facing feature. So what you're looking at now is the U.S. report. So we've got name, we do a alias on the social security number check. Again, depending what country, it would be a 9-0 or a SIN check, whatever it may be. Pull down any aliases. And these are just features to wrap that individual or triangulate that individual around the account. Login successful in the upper right-hand corner means we were able to access the account with the information provided by the consumer, meaning the login credentials, any challenge questions, things like that. Applicant account details. The best way to utilize IBV is to build it into an online application workflow. So you would have the person enter their information, just have a little button that says click here to verify. They would click it, and we would take that information and match up against it. So we make the report real easy. Green is good, red is bad. But in here we look at the transactional information, and essentially we take what was put on the report or on the application, the short information, verify what we can. Also take the transactional data that we receive and work up different calculations. So direct deposit pay cycle or salary cycle, we can work that up. Also the amount of that deposit, good indicators, not just how much the person makes and when, but how truthful they are in telling you what those are. Address verifications, phone verifications, and then at the bottom, days reported, up to 90 days. Again, depending on the market, that could be up to 12 months. We give a current balance and available balance. We do see pending transactions. Negative occurrences, NSF counts, essentially how many times that person has non-sufficient funds in the account. ACH, we also work up a household gross income. Again, we see not just what this applicant is providing information-wise, we see all the income going into the account. So you may have a spouse or a partner also depositing into the account as well. When we log in to the financial institution, we actually see all of the accounts that are associated with that login at that financial institution. So we log in, the user's looking for a checking account. We actually see if they have an auto, a credit card, anything else tied to that login. Again, giving you a bigger picture, or the lender a bigger picture of that individual, so they can really base a better decision. Really knowing your customer, how truthful are they really able to afford what they're trying to take out here? Then we get real granular on calculations. All these are based off of the transactional data, so deposit, credit activity, withdrawal activity, balance details, all broken down into the last 14, 30, 60, 90 days. When they get paid, how much they get paid. We feel that IBV is not just the ability to log into an account, verify its existence and potential balances, but how does that person treat their account, in particular their bank account? How are they living within their financial means? Really on that affordability question, really addresses all those. The meat of it all, the transactional information, we don't normalize anything, so it's exactly as a financial institution or an institution would provide it. In the descriptions, we do a debit, credit, and a running balance. Again, the key here too is that the information comes directly from the financial institution, so there's no ability for the end user to insert any fraud into the process. Info is coming exactly there. What you'll see in here on the underwriting side is who they're getting paid by, when they're getting paid, are they getting paid what they said they're getting paid, Do they have any other loans? What other credit scenarios do they owe? Things like that. On the collection side, you can really time your collection piece because you see when they're getting paid, exactly when they're getting paid, and also their drain. So, do they get paid and go out and spend every last dime within that day, or do they have a slow drain? So it'll raise awareness on certain individuals. Okay, we need to time our collections a little bit better with this person, whereas this person kind of gets paid and has a slower drain. So also build it into your marketing, because you can see now that the person gets paid, where are they going shopping afterwards? Where can we target and market? Where can we help our consumers out? So you really can kind of get in with an analytics team, which is extremely important in all this data that you're getting back, to the underwriting side, the collection side, and the marketing side, to really pull in an analytics team and really help the consumer, help the lender, help the credit bureau with the information that's being gathered here. That's the report. I'm going to pause for a minute. Does anybody have any questions on the report itself and the data?
Hi Sean, it's Simon here from Malta, Simon Camilleri.
Yep, hey Simon.
Can you hear us? Hi.
Yes.
Sean, just one thing we're discussing here. When you're getting the data, I might have missed something. Is it just one set of data at a time, or when somebody logs in, is it like a spider web where it'll go out to multiple data sources that cover them and pull that in, or is it one data source at a time?
It's one data, good question. It's one data source at a time because it is user permissible. And how it works is we're essentially a portal, let's say, into anything that needs to be logged into. So right now we're talking about banks, but this can also be utilized for utility companies, credit cards, you name it. But we would need a connection with each one of those individually because it's all based on the logins from that individual. So every utility, every bank has a different login portal.
Thanks, Sean. But I've got one issue, one of the questions the guys asked here. If we're trying to prevent fraud and show this person's a good credit and what have you, the challenge we were thinking is, how do we know that what they're providing us with is just the good stuff, not the bad stuff?
You pull them in. So, first you want to link. A lot of it's based off their bank account. So I'll kind of explain that in PRBC and how we utilize it. But you need a couple trade lines for sure to be able to base a decision off of and to really be able to score the individual. But if you can get a bank account and 2 or 3 trade lines, you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see in that bank account information what they're paying and not paying. So let's say they only provide you you get their bank account and you get a cell phone from us. Well, in that transactional information, you'll also be able to pick up that they're paying a satellite or a television bill and a couple other bills. So you need to pull in that other information, and you can use that from the bank report. Yes, there is the potential that they're only reporting their good stuff. The way we utilize it in a PRBC report in PRBC is we incentivize the process. So we make it it's not kind of a one-off. To pull it in, we say, okay, you've added your bank account, and kind of like a LinkedIn process where they kind of move you along and tell you how good you're doing as you're doing it. And we also incentivize it by badges, points, things like that to build up a full credit profile. So on a one-off feature, on a lending environment, really it's the banking account information. If you're trying to build up a person's non-traditional credit profile, what you do then is you can daisy chain them in an application, and I can show you that a little bit more how we're doing it or going to do it, to gather as much information as you can. Does that help?
Yes, Sean, thanks. Appreciate that.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, or I'm going to move on? Okay. So integration, and I'll come back to some of Simon's concerns and questions there at the end when we talk about PRBC a little bit. Integration, we make it extremely easy. Essentially, as I mentioned, there's two APIs available. The one that's used most is the redirect, and it doesn't matter what size company. We've got some of the largest companies in the world utilizing the redirect because they want to have nothing to do with the login credentials for that site and be able to tell their customers that they don't have any. So they utilize the redirect, which is really just then a button that goes on the application itself. They go through our 2 or 3 little mini screens, and then they are done. The data is sent right back to the lender. So very easy to utilize. If you're looking to gather additional sources aside from just the bank, again, you can continually, and you're utilizing an API, you can continue this, add this, would you like to add, that kind of a thing. So we found every situation is different, so we really just talk to the lender or whoever it may be and say, what are you trying to gather, especially on a credit reporting agency side, what are you trying to gather in a particular country or in a particular area, and then we can build those onto each. It can also be not just built into an application, but can also be used through a .com solution. Found that smaller companies, small staff companies can just utilize it this way. It's already set up, ready to go. In this version, you would push it out as an email or an SMS or a text. So the person, and it's usually done through a call center, so you can push it out that way. Completely mobile. We've designed it and built it because we understand that people are busy. They may start an application, want to finish it at their kitchen table later, or wherever they may be, so they can finish it on their smartphone. We also have approximately 70% smartphone usage. So as I mentioned before, where mobile phones and smartphones are high, we definitely see that pull in. Also a way for storefronts, brick and mortar to utilize it. They can mount a tablet on the other side of the counter. Let's say it's a payday loan or a short-term loan space, whatever it may be. You could have a tablet or a kiosk in the store where they can actually push out the IBV application and the user completes it. The beauty here is that it's, your employee's not asking for any of the personal information. They can key it in themselves. The person feels it's a lot more intimate when it's, in particular when it's their own smartphone. For some reason they think that's safer than a tablet or a kiosk, but extremely willing to enter that information there. Pushing it out to a user, again, just be pushed out. Always drive them to the Verify Now, but as fast and easy as you can get this information into a user's hands, the better. The application as we have it ourselves, and this is the same as a live demo if we're going to run through it, but it's all based off of a normal short form on the lending side. Any information that's entered is passed to us, so it's not redundant. So on the left would be if you sent nothing to the application. It would ask all the questions: address, mobile numbers, things like that. On the right is the optimum situation. All it asks for is a bank or card name, or that could be a utility name as well. You go through the legal check boxes. Those have to be checked to move on. So you have to make sure those go through. Policy terms. And then what we found too is that in our focus groups, we offer up a security button that they can click on, find out a little bit more about security, and then the terms and conditions, of course, they can click on, find out about that as well. We also built in some help layers, so there's a live chat button they can click. It goes to our call center. We answer it nondescript. Again, Microbuilt and IBV are nowhere in the process. Our only duty, or their only duty, is to get the applicant through the process technically. So there's a live chat, then we can provide a phone number, and then if we really need to, we can do a screen takeover once we're in there and help guide the person around the application. The call center does not see anything that's input into a cell. It's all blacked out. So really they just can help the person guide through the application. The next screen would come up. Login information. So here you would provide username, password, login, credentials, whatever it may be, for that site that you're trying to access. So again, we're really just a portal to anything that you're looking to get information from, a bank, a utility, whatever it may be. So username, password entered. At the bottom I've got 78% click-through. We find that's true in the U.S. And U.K. as well right now, and Canada. We realize that not everybody's going to go through it. For some reason, one, they don't have online access to a certain account. So you go back to your traditional methods for that. But on the whole, people are willing to, particularly when there's a value exchange. In a lending scenario, it's pretty much the person who can, get them the money or the product fastest with the least hassle. So, they're incentivized speed-wise. You can also upsell with the information that you're getting. So people are finding that, because they've got up to the second information, they can make a better decision on the individual when they pull that information in. So speed, safety of service, all key motivators that you want to pull in to it as well. But understandably, we don't get everybody, so you would go to a traditional source where they could send in their applications. All challenge questions, or MFAs, multi-factor authentication, is asked. So whatever a site would ask, what is your mother's maiden name, favorite color, whatever it may be, those flow through the application itself. We also, when we get into financial institutions, sometimes just because the person entered account number 12345, we find the financial institution added some numbers to the front and the back, and we can't match it exact. So we give the opportunity for the individual to select that account to verify which one it is. Again, that way they don't fail out. The application doesn't fail out. They give them the opportunity to verify it. They click submit, and the whole thing's done. Usual normal consumer interaction is about 1.5 to 2 minutes. But again, that's really as fast as the consumer can click. On our end, the application is just that. As soon as they put the information on and click submit, they're done. So application is complete. At this point, 1.5 later, you've got all the transactional information sitting in your system and that report available. So you could build it into your decision engine, collect that data, however it may be. There's a couple back-end triggers to know that a person does it, because again, we realize that people are completing this sometimes in that actual session on screen. They're getting it via email or an SMS or completing it later. So you can build in, we've got email triggers built in, different back-end triggers to let you know that somebody completed the application. That way you know it was done. Any questions on the application screen so far, or application? All right. Add-on products. So to build a credit profile and to continue to utilize this in a non-traditional credit bureau or non-traditional usage, we do collect those login credentials, and we keep those because we do log into that account continually, see that the person's paid their account, what the bill is, things like that. So helps in the lending world on the collection side, because now that you're going to recover funds, before just trying to collect funds and sit there with your fingers crossed and hope it clears the account, you actually can see what the balance is beforehand. So you know if it's a good day to collect, maybe you need to make alternate arrangements on the collection, but definitely not sitting there and maxing out your ACH attempts or your collection attempts in a day or two. Really start to work on that. Also, you can change your terms and conditions or terms of policy to do partials, because you're actually not doing partial recoveries or hitting the account and doing a partial. You know what's in the account, so you're trying to collect 200. You see that 100 is available. You can actually take that 100 because you saw it's there. So again, opens the window to the collections piece. We also have things called clear check, where you can see that an ACH or something cleared the account. So really cleans up a collection process. What these also do in the credit bureau space, as I mentioned, builds on that tray line. So we'll continue to log into that account and we can see that that person paid their bill on time. We built into a payment reporting is bill reminders, things like that. You know when their bills are coming due. As a credit bureau, you can actually work with the consumer since they're providing you the information and part of the process. You can work with them on how to best collect information and move forward. So that's kind of also where our continual account information comes from. So I run IBV today. Let's say I get 90 days worth of information. Instead of running balance check in 2 weeks, we can set up a daily data transfer. So today I get 90 days. Every day thereafter will give you the 24 hours of transactional information in that account. So tomorrow night you're at 91, 92, and so on. So you are current with that account and really can understand the affordability and the collection piece, or how they're paying their bills. Also, stay in touch with that trade line to make sure that they're staying on top of their bills. Data-wise, I'll just run through these a little bit quick. We've got a lot of data that's out there. Data, it just means a lot. There's a ton of stuff. It's really just how you use the data when you come in. We don't ever talk to anybody about IBV or PRBC without having a conversation on analytics as well. We bring in our analytics team to make sure that people understand what they're actually getting and how to utilize it best. Best roles for non-traditional data, help people with no or limited data, so now you can score them. We've got a large population in the U.S. Of people that I mentioned that are stale or don't have current files, but yet they're paying their bills, cell phone bills, satellite, television, every single month, and they're perfect credit risks. You just need a way to access those. So doing this utilizes that. Really enhances the credit system. So these I'll click through a little bit quick. Here in the U.S., we've got about 25% or 80 million people. So I mentioned earlier the financial crisis in around 2008. A lot of people fell off that credit financial radar, saw their credit scores fall by 21 points or more, which is pretty considerable. So people are trying to build their credit, but they're just paying their normal bills. So you got to give them a way to get credit for what they're paying every single day instead of taking on additional credit to do so. So it kind of creates a national inclusion. You get reliable customers that are overlooked by traditional models and creates credit inclusion. Also creates financial literacy, transparency, and savings. You can really reshape the financial topography of a country. People may ask me why now. Mostly because of the technology. I'd mentioned the mobile phone usage that's out there. So technology, mobile smartphones, electronic infrastructure in countries, accessibility. We're closing that information gap between not just the consumer and the credit bureau, but country to country as well. Letting people, I've been talking to people a lot about the issue of having a credit profile in a certain country and that data not traveling with you. This data can travel with you because you're a participant in it. So really be able to let people move around this world and have their data go with them. So just some perk quotes that I had before on the credit bureau. So very important that the information is reported properly, collected properly, held properly, and that's just not security. That's analyzing the data and keeping it safe as well. So one of the secrets of today's business is to know somebody else knows. So to really know a consumer or an end user and how their credit profile and how they really exist in the credit world, if you reach out to them, you're going to know something that definitely nobody else knows and pull that information into your data bank. Click through these. So non-traditional data included in the credit bureaus could have generated $1.7 billion for credit card issuers and $1.9 billion for auto lenders in 2012 in the U.S. alone. That's a lot. So just by pulling in this information, look how much more money everybody could have made and consumers could have borrowed and had that interaction. 43% of banks are actively involved in developing products and services for underserved consumers. The banks realize it. They're slow to move. They have a hard time sometimes getting out of their own way to figure it out. Same with some of the traditional, large, old school, credit reporting agencies as well. But they're all trying to figure out how to access this gap. Just some examples. So overall, large amounts of data and a better understanding. Performance modeling, very important. Speed and power. I actually just read an article. In 2007, they came out with some FICO information, but there was one just literally posted yesterday, an article called Secret to Scoring More Consumers, Alternative Data with a Catch, and it was on the FICO banking blog. And it said there is a better way, one that our research has shown can deliver statistically meaningful credit scores for 60 to 75% of traditionally unscorable consumers. The secret, supplementing traditional credit bureau data with alternative data. In today's big data world, there are many alternative data providers and thus many potential new data sources. Having more data is generally good, but it is more important to resist the temptation of indiscriminately throwing multiple data sources together to bake up an alternative data credit score. This development process needs to be done thoughtfully with the same meticulous consideration that goes into building the FICO score to navigate through the challenges of today's regulatory environment. Pretty great. I mean, to see something like that where you've got, FICO and at Microboat we've partnered and offer a FICO expansion score, which is essentially their alternative credit score. That's somebody that, a lot of people resort back to the FICO score and think that's the holy grail of the numbers, but, that they consider it such an important feature. There's also a white paper out there called To Score or Not to Score that's pretty interesting read as well. So they're all trying to figure out, how to bring it in, how to get the data, how to utilize it. We're at 10 o'clock. Emma, are we okay? I'm pretty much done, except I can go into either do a live demo.
The demo would be, I'm sure most people want to see. Guys?
Okay, got it.
Do you agree?
All right, I'm going to, everybody just give me a second here. I'll switch over and do a quick demo here. So what I'm going to show you now is how we utilize it through a .com feature. So we have our customers log in. Again, this is when people are usually testing or running small. They pick their, from the menus, what country, what IBV version. Again, we've got different versions that we utilize. Business versions for business accounts, and it really comes down just to the information that we're doing on the front side. And all these are country specific, so each one would have its own. So, Canada, SIN, 9Os, things like that. Also in this version I had mentioned we can only push it out via email and SMS. So this is great for call centers when people call in. We were also utilizing it in in fallout. Somebody goes to a traditional bureau and they can't score them. They could be referred to this application. Go through this and let's see if we can get you an approval. I click submit. When I do so, an email and an SMS are going to go out. Okay, so it already went out. And you heard my phone just go, so there's my text. I'm going to go get the the email. Alright, so I just went and got an email, and it had a link that says click here to verify my information. I'm assuming now everybody can see the application piece. So this came up, all that data I already entered was passed through. I can, in the US, hot swap it between English and Spanish, so we do have multi-language features. I can add I start typing in the bank or utility. I'll do our test bank here. There's little help buttons along the way. I can also click on security, it tells me a little about security. I can click on live help, start a live chat session. Again, you'll see that Microbilt and IBV aren't anywhere. I'll do this quick so you can see our screen share feature. Really what it was people in our session said, you know, I just want to make sure, if I can't technically get through it, I need some help. Who do I call? We wanted to take that a burden away from any lending, you know, any of our customers, and just keep it in the application so we can help them. So we can do a live chat, screen share. We'll see if they're there. You know, some of these can also be passed through. Terms and conditions they can click on. In the U.S., we only have one. Again, these are dictated by the country itself. In the U.K., I believe we've got 2 or 3 checkboxes. In Canada, it's 2. Click Next. Next screen comes up. I can show and hide these if I need to. Click Submit. Any errors, things like that, are also built into our APIs. Select my account. I'm on a test box, so I may be going a little slow, and then we're done. So at this point, the application is complete. The user session's over. This last screen, in our version, you can either have them default to this, or we drive them to a completion page of your choice. You know, tell them what happened, what you're about to do next, or if you built the data into your decision engine, did you approve or deny them? So this last page here is just optional. The data now is available in our reports, so I can go to my applications, processing. Let's see if I can get rid of this. So I can go to my applications. Here I've got reports available, processing, so it tells me what's happening and when. And I can click on these and get my reports. Let's see if I got one here. Right here. And then the report's available immediately. So this would be your visual report. We can also set it up at the same time that, and again, this is just being used through microbilt.com, that the data would be sent to you. You know, not the most efficient way, because you have to key in or re-key in the information that you've already gathered on the front side. That's pretty much as fast as somebody can click through the application, as fast as you get data back. So you would have all this available. Any questions? Nothing? All right. If Emma, if anybody wants to see it again, I'd be happy to. Yep.
Yeah, I've actually recorded your presentation, so that'll be available in the meeting space. So
Okay.
that's great. Thank
Yeah,
you
and
so
if
much
anybody
for that.
needs I know people wanted to see the demo. Again, ultimate scenario, building it into an online waterfall, an online process. Let me show you a piece here, and I'll be able to share it in a second. This is, I will need to share another screen here. So you are sharing. Can you now see a PRBC one, Emma, or no?
Not at the moment. If you, we can see. Oh, yeah. Application complete.
How do I share? Let's see here.
Share and then application, and select the new application.
I'll just share my desktop. I think that'll be easier.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So a little bit about PRBC, Payment Reporting Builds Credit. World, essentially the world's largest non-traditional alternative credit bureau, or non-traditional credit bureau. You would ask how to collect multiple accounts. So this is how we're doing it. We're going to be launching this site probably the next couple of weeks. So as you can see, we take basic info, income, bank, credit, utilities. So we walk the individual through it. And they build essentially their own credit profile as they go through. They get badges, points they can redeem, things like that. So there's a way to step people through the process to add as much as possible and to incentivize them for adding additional info. Once you collect that, you can go back out to them if you realize that there's additional ones or their score is low. Say, hey, if you have any additional, you should really add them, things like that. But you're interactive essentially with that consumer. So there is a way to continually get them not just to add their good, but their not so good as well. So, Emma, that's pretty much everything. I think if anybody's got any additional questions, comments, I can. You've got my email address and my phone number. I'd be happy to walk anybody through it individually if needed, and I'm always available for questions and comments. But really, appreciate the time from everybody. Thank you.